Yo, what's up guys, Terrell here on Terrell Game Vlogs. I just got back from watching The Amazing Spider-Man. Yes, I know I'm about, what is that, like 2 weeks off, I think? Yeah, 2 weeks because Dark Knight came out and then I think Spider-Man came out before, a week before. So I'm about 2 weeks off of making this video. But I do want to talk about it because I haven't really given my thoughts on everything. And so this is going to be discussion / review, which will have spoilers in it. So you've been warned at the beginning of the video, spoilers. Okay, so the first thing is, in terms of my thoughts on the reboot when it was first mentioned, way too fucking soon. I think that's been stated by like millions of people. It was way too fucking soon for a reboot. Now for the actual movie itself, and how well does it stack up compared to the first Spider? I'm not going to compare it to all the other two, but the first Spider-Man movie. How does the first Amazing Spider-Man versus the first Spider-Man movie? For one, I can say this right now, I prefer Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, and that has nothing to go against Tobey Maguire, but Tobey Maguire had two things against him. One, he seemed really, really cheesy. As Peter Parker, he comes off really, really cheesy. I think that just, and mind you, the first movie in its own right is cheesy as fuck, but Peter Parker was really, really cheesy. Two, I think Andrew Garfield plays a more realistic Spider-Man. Because the first movie, for all of its praise, still comes off a little goofy. Like, I couldn't take, it's not like I couldn't take Peter Parker's situation in the first movie, in the first Spider-Man movie seriously. It's just, I can take Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man movie performance a little bit more seriously. So those are like the main two things in terms of that. In terms of, I still think the first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire is better though. And the only reason why I say that is because, well actually let me take it back. I'm very mixed. Mind you, I just got out of the movie theater. For right now, I'm mixed, but there are pros and cons to both of them. It just really depends on how serious you want the movie to be. Because right now, I'm leaning towards, 2012 Spider-Man versus, I think the first movie came out in like 2000. What was it? 2001, I think. 2004. I'm not totally sure. I don't remember. I'm leaning towards the 2012 version. But the thing about the 2012 version that I will say right now is I think it's a good movie, but I think the worst part of the movie is the villain of the movie. I feel like, and the reason why it's a B movie, like I think it's a B movie, but the villain is passable, but he's still kind of shit compared to everything else. Like, to me, I can easily say that the Lizard was the weakest part of the 2012 movie. And the reasoning why is not because of a bad performance. I just don't think they wrote him well enough. Because there are points in the movie I was like, what the fuck are you doing? For one, his ideals aren't really pushed enough for you to understand the character. It's like, okay, fine, I understand you want to get your arm back. I understand your wife is suffering. That's the inspiration for the whole cross-species genetic mutation shit. But what I didn't understand was, then he started going into the, like, there's one scene, I remember it, there's only one scene where he actually says it, that he's trying to, like, make humans, he's trying to help people, and then it goes from helping people to perfecting them. So through the process of him and going into the Lizard, apparently he went from helping humans to perfecting them, assuming that cross species would make humans perfect. But what kind of contradicts that is that you're trying to make them perfect, but you're also trying to kill them, because you're like throwing cars off of bridges and choking the shit and like killing niggas. And then what makes it weird is that he's not even like a villain, because at the end he ends up saving Spider-Man. So I'm like, so what are you trying to do, sir? And that also didn't make sense. Why the fuck were you saving Spider-Man as soon as that nigga? It's like he just foiled your plan. He just fucked you over. You were now turning back into your quote-unquote imperfect self, but for some reason you feel compelled to save the man, which made no goddamn sense. Especially because like a minute ago you were trying to kill him. Oh, and then he has like his random moments of being like there's like a few scenes, a lot of his actions contradicted his motives, and then there's like one truly antagonistic scene, and that's when he like breaks the little string shot things on his wrist, and he's like, poor Peter Parker, you've lost your mother, your father, your uncle, you're all alone. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? I feel like there was not enough of his ideology in that movie to make me like sell him as a character. Because he apparently, like, the idea I think that they're throwing out there in the movie was the fact that, you know, the Lizard isn't really a bad character, isn't really a villain, more as he's kind of like a middleman. You know, he's very antagonistic, but he doesn't like want to destroy humanity. He's trying to perfect it. The problem is that you don't see enough of that. Like, a lot of people complain that you didn't hear enough stuff about his wife. I didn't really think you needed to hear anything about his wife. I think his wife shit was fine. I didn't really care. I would have wanted to see her in like a scene or two, but that was about it. I didn't really need to see too much of her. I was more annoyed that he as a character just kind of seemed flat. Not the performance, just what, you know, what was written and what he was doing and his whole mindset, because it didn't really work out right. Like, he seemed like he seemed like it, and the thing is, his ideology wasn't really set there either, because it's like, oh, I'm trying to save humanity, I'm trying to help humanity, but I'm trying to perfect it. And then but his logic about him hurting humans never came up. So I was like, so you have no, it's like, so you don't want to use humans in your crossbreed, you know, situation, but you want to turn them all into lizards anyway. Or was that supposed to be like the jump? That he went from not wanting to use humans in his experiments to that save everyone, making them look like this. Because to me, there's not enough with him. That's my biggest complaint with the Lizard. And to me, I will easily say he's the weakest part of the 2012 movie. There's not enough. I mean, period. There's just not enough of him. Like, really. I don't think they did him. I don't think he's written well. Period. Which is why, but everything else, like, I'm not gonna hate, but I'm not gonna give it like a C or some shit for it, because it's passable. Like, there's enough in there that I can just be like, all right, it's fine. But other than that, you know, there's nothing amazing about him. And to me, it's because of him that Spider-Man, probably this 2012 version, is starting off on a kind of not a bad start, but kind of a shaky start. A lot of people don't like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. I honestly think he's a better Spider-Man than Tobey Maguire is, at least in terms of the first movie. The only thing against Andrew Garfield I have is that he's playing the socially awkward Peter Parker like you're supposed to. I mean, Peter Parker, for all intents and purposes, is a nerd. You know, he's one of those nerd characters. He's very sulky. He doesn't really socialize much. I think Andrew has that down. The problem is, I think he's kind of overdoing it, because there are a lot of scenes where he is trying to say something and he never says it. The only time I thought that it worked was the Gwen scene where he was trying to tell Gwen that he was Spider-Man and he couldn't say it, so he ends up just shooting out a web and just like pulling her in. I thought that was nice. But there are other scenes like at the end where he just doesn't say anything. Like, I feel like he's playing too quiet for Peter. Especially now in terms of the comedy side, him wisecracking, I like this sense of humor. I mean, mind you, I like both Spider-Man's sense of humor. That's one of the cool things about Spider-Man. It's like you have like this nerd character who doesn't really talk much, and then you have like this really wisecracking motherfucker because he feels like he can kind of set free. And I feel like that was a good correlation. I feel like that was nice. I just had a problem with there are scenes where he's just way too fucking quiet, and I'm like, you need to say something. Also, like, and this may be because of the Lizard, I don't feel like him and the Lizard really fought in terms of ideology. Mind you, realistically, I'm not saying, I mean, I guess that's part of the unrealism, is that not every time that happens, that's what it is. I mean, honestly, he was just more worried about, oh, this dude's hurting people. So, I guess realistically, you can kind of let it pass, you know. Maybe that's just the anime side of me thinking. It's like, I would have liked a clash of ideologies, like, because he kept going, oh, humans are weak, and all this other shit. But if the Lizard didn't say anything, what did the Spider-Man have to retort to? Like, the fight in the school was really cool. I like that fight. I also like the Stan Lee thing, where it was like, the nigga had headphones on, and he's doing like the books and shit, and you just see them fighting in the background. You see this table about to hit Stan Lee, saves it with the web. It was like, I thought that was funny. The final fight was, Also, Stacy's dad's death was kind of Stacy's dad's death was kind of obvious because we know for a fact that there was only going to be, if anyone knew. Also, I thought that he revealed himself as Spider-Man way too damn quick. Like, I would not have expected that until the second movie. But it also just depends on how long the relationship with him and Gwen is going to last. Because I don't know if they're going to do, are they even going to use Mary Jane, or is Amazing Spider-Man just not going to use Mary Jane at all? Because if they're not going to use Mary Jane at all, then Gwen's introduction is a little too, like, I feel like Gwen knowing he's Spider-Man is way too quick. The fact that his dad, her dad died at the end was kind of way too obvious, because obviously there's only like 2 characters that know who he is, even though he has his mask off a lot in this movie. I thought that was ridiculous. His mask is off like almost every scene he's in. Like, every scene you see Spider-Man, eventually we're going to see his mask off randomly. Also can see them trying to do like an epic scene with the whole, you gotta let me go, and the light shining down on him, and he's just like this, he's reaching for his mask. I thought this was like, oh, okay, that's a little... in terms of Gwen Stacy, I had no problem with her either. I was surprised how well Emma Stone pulled it off. Mind you, a lot of people wanted her to be Mary Jane, but what you gonna do? It just depends on what I say. Well, overall, the first movie's fine. I mean, I don't think it's great. No, that's a lie. I think it's pretty good. I think it's... I'm going in between good and great, because as I said, I just watched the movie, so my mind's kind of out of it. Good and great, it just depends, because Andrew Garfield's performance of Peter Parker was solid. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I liked the jokes he did when he was Spider-Man. I kind of like the transition. I like the transitioning stage where he went from, first he was just running around like a moron, and it's like, well, let's try this luchador mask thing, and he was wearing that, and then he went from that to wearing like I think he went from that to like the spandex. Did he? No, he went from that, and then he actually started making the actual costume. Like he went, and then he brought up the whole web thing. I like the transitioning from that. I just think there are certain scenes he was a little too quiet. Like some of the beginning scenes with him and Aunt May and Uncle Ben, I thought was kind of like, I feel like he wasn't retorting enough. I do like the whole thing about him discovering his powers. Okay. Like the subway scene, I thought was funny. But overall, it's a good movie. I think it's worth seeing in theaters. It's just, I feel like The Lizard is what ruins it. The Lizard is what stops this from being a great movie, and I think it's because of The Lizard's whole bad writing is what fucks over some of Peter Parker's Spider-Man's issues. Like some of the issues I have with Andrew Garfield or Spider-Man is kind of because there's no, like, the ideology thing. You can't really have that if one side isn't saying anything. There's like one scene where he said something, and I'm like, and Spider-Man kind of just goes, no, that's not you, man. That's not you. I was like, you shouldn't. But then again, he didn't really give him too much to work off of. So I just think the Lizard is the weakest part. It is not that he couldn't have been a better villain. It's just that he just wasn't. Like, they just didn't write him well enough. Also, the after movie scene with like the dude in the top hat and old boys in jail. I don't know who that is. I can't think of a I'm not really heavy in the Spider-Man mythos, so I don't know what villain that could possibly be. But we'll see. But overall, I thought this is more of a review than a goddamn discussion. I don't know why the fuck I called it a discussion. Maybe because I'm stupid. I don't fucking know. Please leave your thoughts in comments about what you thought of the movie. Do you think I think it's an okay start. It's not a shitty start. It's an okay start, I thought the action sequences looked good. I thought the music was great. The only problem I have is the Lizard, which is why I can't really hate the movie straight out. Because I probably would still watch this again. Even knowing how bad the Lizard is, to me anyway, I would probably still watch this again. So it's not great. It's passable, but it's passable for a rewatch. So I say about a B. C would mean it was average, meaning there was other problems. But those literally the only problems I had were just, I feel like Andrew Garfield played up the socially awkward part a little bit too much, and the Lizard's just written badly. But honestly, that's just me. In comparison to the first Spider-Man movie, considering you got to kind of take into account the differences in time when they were made, and you know, because I think the first Spider-Man movie came out after like 9/11, so it was really cheesy and like really America kind of thing. So, yeah. I like both movies though. I'm probably gearing towards the 2012 version, but I may need to rewatch the first one, the first original one, before I truly make that claim. But for right now, I'm leaning towards 2012. Just that lizard. Oh my God, the lizard. But yeah, that's about it. So please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. This has been the vlogs again from your boy Terrell, and I you guys later. Almost fell. Peace.